guys, so I'm back and I'm going to be reading you Making Their Voices Heard, and I can't wait. So the first thing I would say is that if you have never ever listened to music by Ella Fitzgerald, do a little Google search, a YouTube search, and check out her music. Some of my all-time favorite Ella Fitzgerald songs are when she sang with Louis Armstrong, so check out some of her music. And if you've never seen a movie with Marilyn Monroe, if you just Google Marilyn Monroe, there'll be a clip or something online that you can check out. And I would actually do that before you listen to this book, because then you'll have a little better idea of who these two amazing women were. So I'm going to start reading, but please check out some Ella Fitzgerald music and check out a little bit of Marilyn Monroe. Okay? Alright guys, so this is called Making Their Voices Heard, and it is an inspiring friendship of Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe by Vivian Kirkfield. And what I'm going to do, as always, is I'm going to read you the page and then I'll show you the pictures to go with it. So we're going to start off, and it's going to say Ella and Marilyn. On the outside, you couldn't find two girls who looked more different, but on the inside, they were alike, full of hopes and dreams and plans of what might be. So you might take a moment and think, how do they look different? What about them looks different? And you might think, if you're going to predict, what might be similar about them? What do you think their hopes and dreams might be? Ella sang for her supper on the streets of New York City, but she dreamed of sharing her voice with the world. When she stepped on stage for an amateur night competition at the Apollo Theater, her voice brought the crowd to their feet. And the Apollo Theater is a really famous theater. So you can see her there. I'm going to zoom in just on her. Goodbye street life, hello jazz band. Song after song, Ella scaled high notes and low notes on her way to fame. Marilyn painted airplane parts in a Hollywood, California factory, but she hoped to become a great actress. When a photographer snapped pictures of women helping with the war effort, her brilliant smile captivated the camera. And what do you notice about Marilyn Monroe that's different than the picture you saw earlier on? What do you notice that's different? So there's her then. Here's her on the cover picture you saw. What do you notice that's different? Good. Goodbye factory job, hello studio contract. Movie after movie, knowing just when to laugh or cry on cue, Marilyn inched closer to stardom. For years, Ella's velvety shooby-dooby-doos wowed audiences. Jazz greats like Dizzy Gillespie, Louis Armstrong, and Duke Ellington couldn't wait to share the stage with her. She sold out her concert tours abroad. So if you've never listened to Dizzy Gillespie, Louis Armstrong, or Duke Ellington, those are people to also look up. Their music's fantastic. And they all wanted Ella. But still, in her own country, too many doors were closed to her. In 1954, some club owners worried their customers wouldn't come if they played jazz music. Many wouldn't hire black performers, and others would only showcase glamorous female stars like Lena Horne, Diana Shore, and Edith Piaf. But Ella refused to give up on her dream. So those are other people you might want to check out. Edith Piaf is amazing. She sings in French. Diana Shore, Lena Horne, they're also fabulous. But you can see he's saying, nope, not going to hire you. Marilyn struggled with not having her voice heard in a different way. She dazzled fans with her baby blue eyes and breathy boo-booby-doos, but when she asked for better scripts and a higher salary, the studio bosses ignored her. As a woman working in an industry run by men, she found out that her needs and her opinions didn't matter to them. One day, her manager handed her a new script with a big singing role. He told her to listen to the best female singer so she could learn tempo and tone. Marilyn knew who the best was, her idol, Ella Fitzgerald. Marilyn ran right out and bought a pile of Ella's records. Over and over she listened to Ella vocalize, harmonize, and croon those jazzy blues only as she could. Wrapping herself in Ella's voice, Marilyn understood how Ella's music was more than just notes that were sung. It was something special that came from deep inside her. It reminded Marilyn of how she had always put a little bit of herself into each character she portrayed on screen. Finally, the movie premiered. Critics praised Marilyn's performance. They loved her singing style and unique voice. Fans waited in long lines at the theater. The studio made lots of money. Now when Marilyn spoke, her bosses paid attention, and reporters and photographers followed her everywhere. This is a big picture. Let me show you. Look at all those people lined up. I love the coloring in this picture and how they did that. It's so pretty. Determined to thank Ella in person, Marilyn bought a ticket for Ella's next show. Ella took the stage. She looked out at the audience. What was her favorite actress? Was that her favorite actress sitting right there? Whoops. Buying the ticket. When the show was over and the crowd thinned out, only 2 women were left. Sitting shoulder to shoulder, Ella and Marilyn chatted. Marilyn idolized Ella because the singer always remained true to herself. Not only did she love Ella for her voice, but she also loved her as a person. Marilyn told Ella how much she had learned by listening to her records. Ella's heart sang, and in doing so, she had helped Marilyn find her voice. So you can see the whole place is empty except for those 2. Ella was already famous for her voice, but because of discrimination, not everyone was able to hear it. She told Marilyn that the owner of Hollywood's top night spot, the Mocambo, refused to hire her. Marilyn empathized with Ella. Although she didn't know what it was like to be singled out because of her race, she did know how it felt to be held back because she was a woman. As Ella helped Marilyn find her voice, now Marilyn wanted to do the same for her. Putting their heads together, Marilyn and Ella hatched a plan. So I want you to think, what do you think their plan is? Ella picked out her music, practiced her songs, and polished her vocals, while Marilyn called the owner of the club, Mocambo, to make a deal with him. She'd bring the media to the club's doorsteps if he'd hire Ella to perform. Reporters would write about it, and everyone would want to buy a ticket to Ella's shows there. The owner said yes. On opening night, the club was packed. Ladies in sequin gowns, men in shiny tuxedos, reporters and photographers crowded inside. Draped in furs, Marilyn sat at a table up front, ready to cheer on her friend. Head held high, Ella took center stage, ready to wow the audience. They're all ready to listen to her. The band played. Marilyn swayed to the melody. Ella swayed to the rhythm. Marilyn held her breath. Ella filled her lungs and unleashed her musical genius. She sang her heart out for every man, woman, and child whose voice needed to be heard. For the rest of their lives, Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe remained good friends. Ella never missed one of Marilyn's movies, and Marilyn never stopped listening to Ella's songs. On the outside, these two stars couldn't have looked more different, but on the inside, they both understood that sometimes even stars need a little help to shine. And then there's an author's note at the end, and then I'll show you the photograph of the two women together at the end. So here we go. Author's note. Ella and Marilyn may have had entirely different appearances, but they had a lot in common. Both had difficult childhoods, both struggled all their lives with shyness, and both had big dreams. As a teenager, Ella had no real home. She lived on the streets and spent her time hanging around the Harlem Opera House and the Apollo Theater, watching the dancers, singers, and comedy acts. She won an amateur night competition and met bandleader Chick Webb. When he first saw her, he didn't want to hire her because she wore ragged clothes and her hair was a mess. But he was dazzled by her voice. She'd soon sing with Dizzy Gillespie, among many other greats, and became known as the Queen of Jazz, Lady Ella, and the First Lady of Song. But she remained a shy, retiring person when she wasn't immersed in her music. She gave credit to Marilyn when her career skyrocketed after the Macombo Club engagement. I owe Marilyn Monroe a real debt, Ella said. After that, I had to play a small jazz club again. I never had to play a small jazz club again. Ella saw past Marilyn's stunning looks and appreciated her intelligence and her compassion. Marilyn was an unusual woman, Ella said, a little ahead of her times. As a child, Marilyn lived in 9 foster homes, attended 6 elementary schools, and spent time in an orphanage. She stuttered when she was nervous and was quiet around adults. But she had a vivid imagination and loved telling stories to other children. She never complained about going to sleep because she would stand on her bed and act out movie scenes. When she became famous, movie studios tried to project an image of her as someone with lots of beauty and no brains. But Marilyn was very intelligent. She read all the classic works of literature and wrote poetry. She had a passion for justice, called Abraham Lincoln her hero, and was a proponent of civil rights movement before many people had the courage to speak up about it. Marilyn even owned her own movie company at a time when many women didn't own anything. She took acting classes so she could be seen as a real actress, even though many professionals thought she was already a gifted performer. And she always had great respect for Ella. She listened to Ella's recordings constantly so that she could learn to sing better. And when she had trouble falling asleep, she used Ella's voice as a lullaby. My very favorite person, Marilyn said, and I love her as a person as well as a singer, is Ella Fitzgerald. As they worked hard to build their careers, both Ella and Marilyn struggled with discrimination. By the 1950s, they were already well known, but that didn't stop many venues from refusing to hire Ella. Perceived as having a plain face and being overweight, Ella didn't project the image of beauty that the club owners demanded from their performers. And even though Ella had a voice able to wow audiences all over the world, she still encountered discrimination because of the color of her skin, both on stage and off. After getting off a plane in Hawaii on a way to a 1954 concert tour of Australia, Ella and her friends were not allowed to reboard, even to retrieve their belongings, and had to wait 3 days to arrange alternative transportation. Ella sued the airline, and won. Traveling through Jim Crow states was especially difficult because segregation was still the law of the land, and officials didn't like that her manager insisted she perform only for integrated audiences. In 1955, at the Houston Music Hall, police barged into her dressing room and arrested Ella and her group. Released in time to perform their second show at the music hall, Ella said the police had the nerve to ask her for an autograph after she posted bond. Marilyn was judged by her appearance also. The studio bosses called her Strawhead, and they thought she was too pretty to be smart, and they refused to give her any serious roles to play. By listening to Ella's records, Marilyn improved her own vocal abilities, and the movie with the big singing role, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, was a smash hit. Marilyn was then able to leverage her star status to gain more control over her own career. The studio renegotiated her contract and finally gave her script and director approval. Marilyn was extremely grateful to Ella, so when Marilyn found out that Ella was a victim of racial discrimination, she immediately had to stand up with Ella to do something about it. And they did, together. Okay, you guys, so here is the picture of them together. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. So cool. And that picture is from Hollywood, California in 1954. And that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love this book. And now you have homework. You need to go find music by Ella Fitzgerald, and maybe even watch a Marilyn Monroe movie. All right, bye guys.